By now, I'm sure you've all seen the Resident Evil 9 trailer and the numerous trailer breakdowns on YouTube, so I'll spare you the recap and just get down to business. Like most of you guys, I have many questions about this game, but I highly doubt that your questions are getting you banned and muted from your RE communities. So today, I'm going to be searching for those answers myself, starting with the most important question. When exactly did Alyssa Ashcroft have sex in the Resident Evil timeline? In the trailer, we're told she has a daughter named Grace Ashcroft, so we know this had to have happened at some point. Seriously, how is nobody discussing this? Leon's never even seen a naked lady in the series that wasn't turning into a monster, and Alyssa's over here having sex in between games? Who cares if she's dead? I don't need to know who murdered her, I just want to know who smashed her. I'm not interested in debating if this Remwood hotel door reads 101 or 204, unless this was the room Alyssa rimmed some wood in, if you know what I mean. But seriously, this is clearly marked 204. Where are you guys even coming up with 101? Anyway, it doesn't take an FBI analyst to figure out that Grace's mother was a survival horror. From this one trailer alone, we can see that Alyssa was never married. There's no ring on this finger. Also, the FBI is calling Grace by her mother's maiden name.
Grace Ashcroft.
Yes?
So the chances are pretty good that Grace is a bastard. If that's the case though, then who was the father? How old is Grace? And when does this game take place? Is Alyssa really dead? If so, when did it happen? All questions I'm sure we can answer if we just knew when, in the Resident Evil timeline, that Alyssa got laid. But before we begin this investigation, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more investigative lore videos covering Resident Evil. Much like Umbrella and the other gaming communities, YouTube doesn't support the content we make here at Dead by Donovan, so every little bit of support is greatly appreciated and helps tremendously. Now, just in case you don't remember, Alyssa Ashcroft was a strong independent boss bitch of a reporter who didn't need no man or baby holding her back. So for Capcom to hit us with a fully grown adult child of Alyssa's out of nowhere is by far the most far-fetched thing they've ever asked us to accept. And this is coming from the series that had us running from a giant-ass robot midget statue in a castle. Not only is Grace's existence implausible, but it's also completely irresponsible on Alyssa's part. There has to be some explanation for this, some special circumstance or reasoning for giving birth to Grace in the first place.
Is that you? Oh, how I've missed you!
Sadly though, we can't know the answer to this question from this one trailer alone, but we can still find out when her mom was humped on. So, to get to the bottom of this mystery, we need to approach this investigation like an FBI analyst. We'll need to establish a timeline, create character profiles, and examine all possible motives, as well as track character movements. To create a timeline of events, we need to first look for any and all clues as to when this game is taking place in the universe. From here, if we find Grace's age, we should be able to subtract it, as well as the 9 months she was up in Alyssa's ass loft, and we should get a general idea as to when her mother made whoopee in the series. According to this FBI guy, Special Agent Nathan Dempsey, Alyssa was murdered 8 years before the events of this game. This tells us that Grace is at least 8 years old.
Alyssa died 8 years ago.
With this bit of info, we can compare it to the last known point in the timeline where Alyssa was sexually active. According to this newspaper in 2016, we can see that Alyssa published an article about her rising body count on January 19th. It's unclear if this is Alyssa's writing in lipstick that says, "More on the way," so I'm gonna just ignore that for now. Anyway, the earliest that this FBI meeting can be taking place is sometime late January of 2024, assuming Alyssa kicked the bucket immediately after publishing that article in RE7. But seeing as Capcom has been setting their recent games in the actual year of the release of those games, it's highly unlikely that this game will be set in 2024. In search of other clues, I noticed that all the clocks in the FBI building read 10:09. This exact time and minute is also verified by the digital clocks in the background displaying the alternate time zones for the rest of the country. And judging by all the coffee everyone's drinking, I'm going to say this is happening at 10:09 a.m. Outside of the office, we can see that this is the Midwest Field Office, which is a little unusual since all FBI buildings in the country display the name of the city first before the words Field Office. So it looks like we have another Tall Oaks, Harvardville situation here. but it shouldn't be a problem finding out where this building's located. Upon closer inspection, I noticed some previously overlooked details in the establishing shot of this trailer. By enhancing the image and zooming in on the license plate, we can see that the color scheme, blue and white, matches up with the plates of Illinois. From here, I set out to find which FBI office this was, but it turns out there is no city named Midwest City or Midwest Town in the state of Illinois. Also, there are no FBI offices in the Midwest that remotely resemble this building. But as it turns out, this FBI building is actually a mix of two real-life FBI offices that can be found in San Diego and Denver. With the state identified, we can now use the shadow links found outside of the FBI office to pinpoint where exactly in the state of Illinois this building is located. With this information, we can create a list of potential days throughout the year where the shadow links like this can exist at 10:09 in the morning. Luckily for us, all of the shadow links are exactly 2 times the height of the objects casting those shadows. If this man is 2 meters tall, then his shadow is 4 meters in length, making our job a lot easier. By using a sun calculator, we can see that the sun only casts shadows of this length on 2 different days of the year in the state of Illinois. These days are January 31st and November 21st. Plus, these measurements are roughly the same for these dates in the years 2024 to 2028. As for the location where you can find these shadow links, it's just south of Springfield, Illinois, which has its own FBI field office that looks nothing like this one. So what do you guys think here? If Grace is the one returning to Raccoon City, does this mean her office has jurisdiction over Raccoon City? Did we finally solve one of Resident Evil's oldest mysteries by accident? All because I was trying to find out when Alyssa Ashcroft got dicked? Has Raccoon City been in Illinois all along?
I'm trying to find my boyfriend. His name's John. He was working for a branch office of Umbrella based in Chicago, but he suddenly disappeared 6 months ago.
According to the new images released, Grace wakes up in the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, so maybe this town is named Rhodes Hill and not Midwest Town. At Grace's desk, we can see a map of a city. If anyone can help me identify this, it'd be greatly appreciated. I've wasted hours trying to match this map up with anything close to it in the Midwest, but nothing's lining up. Also, I've seen people suggest that these men pinned to the map are just victims or suspects related to the ongoing homicides that Grace's office is investigating, but at this point, who really knows? It's possible that they're potential leads as to who Grace's real father is, like maybe she's tracking down all the men her mother slept with, because she was trying to get that next big scoop. By enhancing the image of the reflection of Grace's monitor in her glasses, we can flip the image horizontally and see that she's actually reading about Oswell E. Spencer and the destruction of Raccoon City. We can see the words CEO, Oswell E. Spencer, and infection spreading beyond city. So chances are, these dudes are just related to the murder she's working on. Anyway, I thought I'd share this here since no one seems to have noticed it and nobody's reporting on the name Spencer showing up in the trailer. But moving on, now that we have 2 potential dates lined up, we need to find out how old Grace actually is. According to Google, the FBI doesn't hire 8-year-olds. Turns out you need to at least be 23 years old with 2 years of professional work and a bachelor's degree. They're only hiring between the ages of 23 and 36. And seeing how Capcom likes to keep all their women as young and hot as they can for as long as they possibly can, I'm gonna go with Grace being 23 years old here in this trailer. And knowing Capcom, they'll find a way to infect her and keep her young and tight forever. Oh wait. So if this game takes place in present day, 2026, with a 23-year-old Grace working for the FBI, how does this all fit into the known series timeline? Well, going back 8 years to Alyssa's death fits within the window between her last known published article and the news of her supposed death. Seriously, she isn't dead. We all know this lady beast haunting Rhodes Hill is actually Alyssa. She probably got the idea to hide in the vents from that lady licker in the Apple Inn. To go back even further, we'll have to get creative like an FBI profiler. There aren't many canonical events or facts involving Alyssa to work with here, but that doesn't mean we can't narrow this time frame down and find out exactly when the Master of Unlocking got her lockpicked. Yeah, according to Outbreak, Alyssa is also a Master of Unlocking, and just like Jill, she was infected during the Raccoon City incident back in 1998 when she was 28 years old, which would make her around 46 in 2016. But going even further back, Alyssa made enemies with Umbrella as far back as 1993 when she sent her journalist friend to the Arcalay Hospital to investigate the illegal experimental drug smuggling operation that Umbrella was conducting up in the mountains. Turns out they were testing and distributing an illegal anti-cancer drug that turned people into zombies. Kurt ended up getting killed by Dorothy Lester, the hospital director's wife, who'd later go on to become one of the many vagina plant monsters that sprung up during the outbreak. Alyssa tried to blow the lid on the whole conspiracy and cover-up, but Umbrella had paid off the RPD and closed the hospital doors long before anything could be done about it. So, she had already painted a target on her back long before anyone else stood up to Umbrella. Years later, Alyssa would discover that the illegal drug was TJCCC204, most likely getting infected with it as the vagina plant squirted hallucination-inducing spores in her face all the time, adding to the long list of reasons why she should never have a child. Not only did Umbrella want to silence her, but she was already infected with the T-virus, exposed to TJCCC204 through the Dorothy Lester queefs, not to mention the potential nuclear radiation on top of the experimental vaccines she took. And everyone's just assuming she was cured by daylight when there's actually more evidence to suggest that the end of the road scenario might be canon here. In the shots of present-day Raccoon City, you can see a container that looks similar to the one that Nyx broke out of. So factor all this in, with Alyssa trying to take down one of the most corrupt companies in the world, and you have a million reasons why she should never have a baby. But apparently she did. At least we know that Grace wasn't conceived before the events of Outbreak, and Alyssa wasn't pregnant at the time. I know this because Alyssa was out drinking during the start of Outbreak. Also, unlike the rest of the characters in the series, Alyssa never talks about having a family, not in a cutscene or any of the 1,000 ad-libs you can generate. Trust me, I went through every single scenario as Alyssa, recorded all ad-libs, and sadly, I did this on Notepad, so I didn't actually get video of it. But trust me, bro, unlike Mark, Jim, and George, she never mentions anything about exes or loved ones. So the only logical time frame for Alyssa to get knocked up responsibly is sometime after the fall of Umbrella in 2003. This gives her 5 years to find out if her junk is working properly, as well as a guarantee that Umbrella's not going to have her assassinated. So, thanks to Chris, Jill, and Wesker taking down Umbrella's caucus lab in Russia, Alyssa must have felt safe enough to cut loose and celebrate. From here, one thing led to another. Alyssa must have forgotten to take her birth control before raw-dogging someone, and 9 months later, we're stuck with Grace. As for potential fathers, I don't think this voice in the trailer is Kevin Ryman.
Investigating all these strange deaths, huh?
But that would be pretty awesome, but I still don't think he's the father. Grace doesn't appear to be the type that's an expert marksman, and both Alyssa and Kevin specialized in pot shots.
Well.
As for Mark, Jim, and Bob, I've ruled them out for obvious reasons. Personally, I think it could be George Hamilton, the doctor from Outbreak. I know he had the hots for Cindy, but just look at his collar compared to the Hooded Strangler's collar. That's totally the same collar. But this man is abducting people from the Remwood Hotel and dragging them to the Rhodes Hill Clinic. If you're going to risk having a T-infected fetus creature growing in your stomach, you'd probably want to have the guy who completed the vaccine research on Daylight to be hanging around. So, maybe George isn't the father, but he could still be the Hooded Strangler that was there for the delivery of Grace back in the day. This would explain how he knows that Grace is special, the chosen one who fused with the T-virus queefs and vaccines. Like, what if all the survivors of Daylight are now dying for some reason, and they need Grace's blood to survive? Anyway, if this guy is George, then there's a chance he hooked up with Alyssa in room 204. Clearly, you can see that this bed is messy, and something happened in it, and for 2 frames of the trailer, you can see what appears to be a man's hand and a silhouette of a man sitting in a chair or bed behind Alyssa. Who is this? Is this Spencer? Looks like a wrinkly old man hand to me. I know this other shot from this other angle isn't Spencer. There's no medical equipment around him, and you can clearly see that this is the Hooded Strangler with his hood pulled back. That's not Wesker Midnight Gear. We know this guy getting strangled is Alyssa's partner, seeing as Alyssa is the only one in the trailer to hold a flashlight, and we know that someone's with her in this room. I've seen people suggest that this man dying is actually turning into a creature, but it sounds like he's saying stay away from her, not stay away from me.
Stay away from that!
Like he needs Grace to stay to continue the experiment they were working on. Or else. We can see from the side of this frame that Grace was already bandaged up under her shirt. This tells us that the scene happened sometime after her escape from the suspended gurney in the hospital wing, where they were drawing her blood. As for who this guy is, I think he's a doctor for Rhodes Hill. By superimposing his head over the silhouette of a man looking down at either Alyssa or Grace, we can see that his head shape, along with his hair and ears, line up with the man peering down on whoever the patient is. Maybe Grace was a forced pregnancy on Alyssa, sort of like how the Thorn cult forced Michael Myers to make sex to his cousin to spawn the next Michael Myers baby. I know that's far-fetched, but honestly, it'd make Alyssa look a whole lot better as a mother if her pregnancy wasn't planned. Anyway, with the game being released on the 30th anniversary of the series, it makes sense for the game to take place in the year 2026, but I have a feeling it could be set in the year 2028, as the first game was actually set in the year 1998, and I think Capcom could be trying to pull their own Return to Shadow Moses like Konami did with MGS4. Remember that? Where the same amount of time in-game had also passed for the players in real life?
A surveillance camera.
Sadly though, if Capcom tries this, it's gonna fail. The nostalgia won't be there for the real fans. This is not our RPD, and it's not the RPD that the Outbreak survivors visited either. Seriously, RE2's remake wasn't that long ago. The newcomers and next generation fans aren't even gonna care. Not like we did when the surveillance camera hit the ground. So in conclusion, Grace is 23 years old, the same age Jill was on her first outing 30 years ago, and this game will most likely be set in the year 2028, making Alyssa Ashcroft 58 years old. Way too old for Capcom, so do not expect her to survive in this game. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, please leave a like, share the video, and click the subscribe button to get notified for more Resident Evil lore videos. Also, if you'd like to support the channel in other ways, links to become an RE-tard are below. As a channel member or patron, you'll gain early and exclusive access to videos, as well as custom emojis, shoutouts in videos, and an invite to the Dead by Donovan Discord server. Hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye.